Hi, this is Dr. Kathy McGuire of Creative Edge Focusing, and I'm with Edwin Rush of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy and Compassion. And we are going to demonstrate one of the exercises from my free e-course, which you can sign up for at Creative Edge Focusing website. This exercise is called active listening. But maybe I'll just let Edwin say hello before I get into it too much more. Would you like to just introduce yourself a little?
Oh, hi, Kathy. Yeah, you introduced me, Director Center for Building a Culture of Empathy at cultureofempathy.com. So, a real empathy advocate. So, glad to be here with you to do this exercise.
And Edwin has at his website amazing numbers of interviews about empathy and demonstrations of empathy and conflict resolution. So, he is a huge resource. So this exercise is called active listening, and it's part of the series on how to stop arguing. And in particular, active listening or empathic listening is a way that just diffuses someone's anger. If someone's coming at you out of the blue, like, I am really, really mad at you, the best thing you can do is just say back what they're saying, like, wow, something's really upsetting you. Typically, if someone's coming at you with anger, you want to come back at them with your own defensiveness. Well, too bad for you. Or, well, I didn't do anything. Well, you started it. And then you are off and running, interrupting each other, feeding off of each other's defensiveness, and it just escalates from there. So if someone comes at you, whether they're a stranger or a family member, even a child, and says, I am really, really mad, or I don't like the way you did that, just reflect, wow, you are really upset. You really don't like the way I did that. You're not agreeing with the person, but you are centering them back in themselves. Instead of projecting all their anger out, they're going to start talking more from themselves. One thing to remember is that an angry person is a hurting person. So you want to connect with the hurt, the vulnerable hurt person. And the way to do that is just reflect. So Edwin's going to try to demonstrate that. I'm going to come at him with a little bit of anger, an issue that we have. And we're going to go further. We're going to also demonstrate how you can actually go deeper in resolving a conflict by exchanging 5-minute active listening turns. So that's why I have this timer up here. The most important thing is to have a timer, to have turns and not interrupt each other. Miracles can happen. In addition, we're going to use active listening or empathic listening, which means setting aside your own assumptions, reactions, judgments, defenses, and just trying to say back what the other person is saying with special attention to the feeling tone. So if the person says, how could you possibly have forgotten our appointment? You might say back, wow, you are really upset that I forgot the appointment. So you're doing their content, but you're also guessing at the feeling tone. And if you're not right in your guess, then they can correct you and say, no, it's not that I'm that, it's that I'm feeling this. And then you just say, oh, so it's this. Okay, we're going to demonstrate. And here we go. Okay, so Edwin, I have this issue with you, and I'm really pretty mad about it because it's gone on for months. A long time ago, I told you that I wanted to talk about gender in relation to empathy. And you said, oh, no, I don't want to talk about that. And it amazed me because you are Edwin, who is willing to do listening about everything. So here, an issue that is really, really important to me, and you say, oh, no, I don't want to talk about that. So
Okay,
I want this to change.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you're feeling really upset because there's an issue you wanted to talk about, being about gender, and that you just heard me say that I didn't want to talk about it, and you're feeling quite upset about that, especially since I'm the empathy guy.
Exactly. That's the main thing. Okay, so now you have reflected me, and now I'm going to set the timer because we're going to do that going further of just spending really 5 minutes each way. So here's my very obvious clock. Yes, you are the empathy guy. And this issue is really, really important to me because I've spent the last 40 years in my experience in the focusing world feeling like no matter where you go and whatever people are supposed to believe in, there is a way that the thinkers in the crowd come to dominate the feelers. And for me, those are the best words I can give to this gender issue. There are a lot of thinker women out there. So it's not just gender. They're the most difficult because it's hard to pin something on them. But I'm sick of it, and I didn't want to see it happening in your empathy world. I guess that's why I was so upset.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'm hearing there is that you're feeling upset because that the thinkers tend to dominate the feelers. So you've seen this over the years, the people who are into thinking, that they will dominate people who are maybe more sensitive and more feeling oriented. And this is like an issue that you wanted to talk about, and you're feeling that I didn't want to talk about it?
Exactly. And even when you said back the words, thinkers versus feelers, I did have a big sigh. They seem like ridiculous words, and anybody could say, oh, what are you talking about? But it was such a relief to just have you validate it to the degree of saying back, yes, Kathy experiences the world as that there are these thinkers of either gender who not even consciously dominate the feelers, as I'm calling it. And
okay, so I'm hearing there that she actually felt some relief, felt a little bit more ease, just even hearing this reflected back about your concern about the feelers and the thinkers dominating the feelers. Just hearing that back just gave you a bit of ease, a bit of relaxation.
it does. And I can almost now feel a teary feeling coming. As I said, an angry person is a hurting person. I feel some teariness. So I'm going to just speak. I'm going to try to pay attention to that and speak from that. So the teariness is that I am a really intelligent person. I have a PhD from the University of Chicago, of all places. And I have been teaching empathic listening and experiential focusing skills for 40 years. And I learned focusing from its creator, Eugene Gendlin. So that teary place, and this is very relevant to this gender issue or whatever, that teary place says, I am not a stupid person. And if I tell you that after 40 years of observation, there's something going on here about how in every organization I've been in, even if the process is empathy, which I don't know if you want to argue here, but I'd say women in general, or whatever, it's hard to even find the right word, what call them feelers or whatever, but it's one of the things that women are really, really good at. And to suddenly find in every organization about empathy or about focusing, which are both very feminine activities in terms of Jung, which is where I get those terms, it makes me feel stupid, that I'm seen as stupid. So I'll stop there and you can just say that.
Okay, so what I was hearing there is that you're feeling very tearful, and that you feel that that you're a very smart person, and that you've been seeing this dynamic about the thinkers dominating the feelers, and that I'm not quite sure I'm getting the full issue here. So anyway, was that it? And then you're just seeing this constant, and it's the women who tend to be more of the feelers, even though there are some women who are big thinkers. But yeah, so I don't know if I quite got that.
So my 5 minutes is up. I can say more later. But again, as you said it back, I felt that teariness, that I sound like an idiot talking about thinkers and feelers. And I am not an idiot. And that's a woman's issue. Feeling, because the things you want to talk about are maybe more vague, feeling stupid. But my time is up. So.
Okay, what I would recommend is we don't do the timer there, because you're hearing it ticking all the time, and I think that might be annoying.
Okay.
So I do have a timer here that I'm going to run.
Okay.
It's quiet, so.
Okay, I'm going to just leave the timer. I'm not going to turn it on, but I'm going to leave it up here, because it's one of the most important things we want to teach is use a timer, take turns. So.
Just as a reminder, so I'm here, you're going to leave it up there as a sort of a reminder about the importance of time.
Exactly, of turns.
Turn taking.
Turn taking. Now, I also have I can use my phone also, but are you going to be sure to remember?
I have a timer up here, so
okay, you're going to do
starting it. Yep.
Okay.
Starting.
So now it's Edwin's turn. I'm going to reflect him.
Okay. Well, I don't have trouble talking about gender. It's just that I just don't see empathy as necessarily gender related, in the sense that women are necessarily more empathic than men. It might be sort of a marginal difference. I've seen studies that show a marginal difference, but I just don't, what it is I don't like to feminize empathy. Say this is a feminine trait, this is a masculine trait. I like to take the gender out of it and say these are just common humanity traits.
Okay, so let me say that back, and I'll say to our watchers, it's been pretty hard for me to set my emotion aside and remember, I'm going to reflect Edwin. So even though I've been doing this for 40 years, it's difficult. Okay, so you're saying that you don't really have a problem talking about gender issues. And there are even studies that say there's maybe a marginal difference between men and women in terms of gender, but it's not a huge difference. And also, in terms of empathy, you don't want to say that it's either a feminine or a masculine activity. You want to say it's a human activity, and that's important to you in terms of what your mission is. It's important to say, no, it's not something that men or women have. It is a human capacity or quality.
Exactly, yeah. And there's plenty of women that don't empathize. I see it sort of a narcissism, like a self-centeredness, just talking about themselves and not listening. There's self-righteousness, like I am right, you are wrong. I see that. I see anger, using anger. We can go down the list. I've got a list of at least 30 different blocks to empathy. And women do all of them. They're right there doing all of them. So I don't see, men maybe try to dominate more or withdraw. There's also withdrawal. So I just see it as pretty, all these blocks really overlap between men and women. So I don't like to, for that reason, kind of say, empathy is a feminine trait or a masculine trait. It's a human trait. So, yeah.
So for you, it is not going to be helpful to have everybody going around talking about this as women are more empathic than men, and empathy is a feminine trait rather than a masculine one. And you want to say, there are plenty of women who have the 20 or 30 blocks to empathy that I can list. For instance, using anger, instead of being more owning, a number of different kinds of blocks.
Kind
And
of a narcissism,
narcissism, being more
self-righteous.
self-centered,
Yeah,
self-righteous. You got
self-righteous.
your list there. It's like, yeah, righteous,
I
self-righteous.
am so right. Why can't you see the rightness of my position? And I'm,
Uh-huh.
you're just a terrible person for not seeing. You're a jerk. So,
So narcissism, self-righteousness, anger, wanting the women who want to tell you, I am right. Why can't you see that I'm right and just agree with me?
yeah,
you're just a bastard because you won't do that.
right. And withdrawal, like kind of withdrawing of presence. So it crosses the board. Like I just see that, between all the genders. So I just find it, I'm glad to talk about the topic. I enjoy talking about it like we're talking about it now. So it's not talking about it that's the problem. It's just from my point of view, is just categorizing a trait as feminine or masculine. I don't see that maps over to reality.
Mm-hmm. And so you're not wanting to say that women are more narcissistic, self-righteous, and angry than men. You're not trying to go that way either. You're just wanting to say you have not found it helpful to try to categorize this as male or female, feminine or masculine. It just doesn't seem to fit your view of reality.
Right.
That women are just as capable of having all the blocks to empathy as men, and it is not going to be helpful. It's not going to help the world or your mission to divide it up that way.
Exactly.
And it does help your mission to say it is a human trait. We're all humans in this together. We all can learn and apply empathy.
Exactly. I could go on and on, but my 5 minutes is up.
All right. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay. That feeling's there was a little fear there in my shoulders, but also it's a feeling of, I love this process because we get to learn more instead of me having been mad for several months because I didn't want to bring this up because you didn't want to talk about it as far as I was concerned. So
okay, so I'm hearing that you really love this process because you were feeling that I didn't want to talk about it. Now maybe we're talking about it and creating maybe a bit more ease within you, less tension, releasing some tension.
Yes, and in terms of our listeners, we're going to just do each of us one more turn. So we're not going to get to the end of this, but we're showing a shift from what could have been an argument into learning from each other. So I do have a lot of tension and fear about this issue because I've been carrying it for 40 years. Okay, so
I'm just hearing a lot of tension and fear about this because for 40 years you've been kind of holding this, carrying it.
So I'm just thinking down a little bit more in a focusing way to just kind of ask myself, so what is all this kind of fear and sadness? Why I still want to hold up some kind of a flag for there's something different going on that needs a name. So again, a big sigh. It feels good to say that. I'm an intuitive person and I pick up things that are going on interpersonally. And then I have to try to find some words or terms so that other people can see what I'm seeing. And so that this issue has that dimension to it. Something kept happening and I kept trying to figure out what it is. And the best description I could find for this particular dynamic does come out of Carl Jung's theory. And Carl Jung believed that everybody has masculine and feminine inside of themselves, and that the life goal is to integrate that. So masculine and feminine, in his terms, you can find a list of the qualities on each side. And there's a measure that comes out of it called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And it's in terms of science of measurement, it's a highly valid and reliable test. So it's testing something. So the part of me that says there's something going on here, the Myers-Briggs says, yes, there is, and here's some scientific evidence. And it's marginal, as you say. There's a number of dimensions on the Myers-Briggs. Most of them are split like 50-50 among Americans, at least. But the one where there is a difference is in his dimension of the thinkers versus the feelers. And that one is 60-40. 60% of men are thinkers, 40% of men are feelers. That's a lot of feeler men. And likewise, 60% of women are feelers. And 40% of women are thinkers. And that's a lot of thinker women. I know this sounds like a big thing, but it's complicated. As I said, it's not a stupid, when I use the words thinker and feeling, I'm not being stupid. There's a lot of science or thought and theory behind it. I don't know how you're going to say this back, but I'm just going on here. So
You have 1 minute.
Okay, so thinking and feeling are not about emotions. Everybody has emotions. They're about how you make decisions in the world, whether you make them in terms of logic or whether you make them in terms of a kind of morality that's based on experiencing everything as interconnected. And that's where the big difference for me is, where I want to say the feminine way is about interconnection, and it leads to being more collaborative, thinking about the collectivity instead of just yourself, and empathy goes in there. Okay, so you can say back.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that there's Carl Jung has kind of theory around this, and his is about that there's a feminine and masculine, and there's like this integration attempt at integrating it. So what your view is based on that, and so it's not like some dumb view or doesn't mean anything. There's some kind of science, some kind of theory, whatever, behind it. And so that and behind that masculine and feminine is the thinker and feeler. So there's a high percentage of men are thinkers and a high percentage of women are feelers. And so you're saying that that's kind of the basic background.
So in terms of time, you're doing a great job. Now it gets clear. I couldn't have said this before. Why this matters is because feelers, in their way of being, their decision making, the way they use information, are endemically collaborative and not hierarchical. And that's the word that matters to me. The feelers are non-hierarchical. They're not trying to dominate anybody. The thinkers are hierarchical. Logic is a rational, logical, fact-driven. It is inherently hierarchical. And that is the problem. It's like that song, Guns N' Roses. If you've got some people who are being collaborative and egalitarian, and you've got other people who are innately pecking order kind of people, the collaborative people are going to lose unless attention is brought to this. They're going to be dominated. And that bothers me, because what the world needs now is more egalitarian collaboration, which needs empathy.
So there's another aspect to this is in terms of hierarchy, that the thinkers will tend to dominate, and the feelers are more collaborative and more egalitarian. And the world needs more of that feeling, egalitarian collaboration now, not this hierarchical dominating.
Yes, and that makes me sigh again. So thank you. And that's going to be my last turn, at least for this exercise.
Okay.
So Edwin, your turn.
Yeah, I'm fine with the terms of thinkers, feelers, hierarchy, egalitarian, feeling, sensing, those kind of words I'm comfortable with, that they resonate with me. But to use the word to divide those feelings, those ways of being into masculine and feminine, I just don't find accurate or really effective.
Mm-hmm. So now you're saying those terms, thinkers versus feelers, hierarchical versus collaborative and egalitarian, those words resonate with you. They do capture something you experience in the world. So you're okay with using them as kind of handles for this thing we're trying to describe.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
then to divide it up into the men and the women,
Yeah.
that, or even Jung's masculine and feminine, for you, that it's not only not helpful, but I think you're saying it creates a problem.
Oh, yeah, that's true. There is a problem there, is that, that men are going to think, oh, I don't want to do this because I'm going to be feminine, right? So there's this dividing the world into masculine and feminine and like identity. And I just find that gets very confusing, puts people on the defensive, and it's not accurate either. If 40% of women in the theory are, have this intellectual or, kind of dominating quality, that's still, are you going to say they're masculine? It's like, let's just say, what is the felt experience that they have? And I'm willing to go with that, but just the whole masculine feminine is just, I find it just muddies the water, is confusing. This doesn't help the discussion. Whereas these other terms I find very helpful, and I'm really willing to go, really use those.
Okay, so I reflected back that not only is it not helpful, but it could actually be harmful, like be a problem. And you said, yeah, that is capturing some edge of what this is for me. It's a problem. It muddies the water. What are you going to say? There's 40% of women who are thinkers. Are you going to tell them they're masculine? Is this going to be helpful? And the same, you don't want men to say, well, I'm not going to get involved in empathy. It's a feminine thing. I don't want to be feminine. So you're making some really good words for how this can really muddy the waters and be a problem.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's accurate, because we have all these different capabilities as humans. Maybe, through culture, whatever, women have, developed those to a marginal degree more, but it doesn't make them inherently feminine. So, so it's just like wanting effectiveness, not just effectiveness, but kind of accuracy. I just don't see it as like an accurate term.
So
even if Jung says it.
So you could see some usefulness in terms like thinker and feeler, that they do refer to something that is maybe worth looking at or talking about. But to throw in there, empathy is masculine or feminine, or thinking is masculine and empathy is feminine.
Yeah.
I just think it really muddies the waters and makes people less likely to be interested in learning empathy.
Yeah, and there's also another term, is systematizer and empathizer, and that comes from the work of Simon Baron-Cohen, who has written the book The Science of Evil, or The Science of Empathy, and or I can't remember exactly. He has a couple different names. There's a British book, and then there's the English version. But he studied autism and wrote about empathy, and he's looking at sort of this, something similar of people to have a systematizing, organizing brain versus this empathic, sensitive feeling, and that that generally men have that more, but there's a whole graph, the plot of it, the overlapping, and it shows that marginally women have developed it more. But so anyway, that's just another term that I'm going to look at too.
So again, that Simon Baron-Cohen, I think you said, has written a book and done a lot of studying, and the terms he's come up with that seem similar to the thinker-feelers from the Myers-Briggs are systematizers and empathizers. And it kind of refers to that same thing, the logical, possibly more hierarchical, systemizing way of being, versus the empathic way, which you didn't have time to say much, but is maybe more diffuse, or I don't know. I'm not going
More
to
of a feeling. It's
didn't say.
more about awareness of feeling,
Yeah.
a sensitivity, feeling
Mhm.
into
Mhm.
experience. So
So,
yeah.
mhm. So you find that that can be helpful in trying
Hmm.
to understand the dynamics that go on. And but this calling it masculine and feminine, he also find a slight gender difference. And then it's really important to you before you said, and it needs to be accurate, not just efficient use of terms, but
Hmm.
accurate. They need to reflect the experience that I, Edwin, have in the
Yeah.
world. And you
Uh-huh.
go around saying women are empathic and men are, well, it's just not my experience. It doesn't help. And I don't care if Jung said it. It's not accurate to what I experience in the world.
Exactly. I feel heard, and that was my 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. So to our viewers, we're both laughing together here instead of being in a stalemate, which might have happened. And so I love this process. I love you, Edwin. I appreciate you for partaking in this. And I learned a lot. And I think we got closer together. Now we have systematizer and empathizer term we could really explore in a profitable, forward-going way. So that's my comment. Anything you'd like to say about this?
I love this process too. I think it's one of the most effective. It's for the amount of work and skill and so forth, you get the most benefit, and it's the foundation of therapy, of just well-being, of emotional healing, of conflict resolution, gateway to creativity and problem solving. So this is the one skill I think that's a beginning empathy building skill that you get the most benefit from,
Yeah.
just to begin with. So
That it's relatively easy for everyone to learn active listening or empathic listening, and the payoffs are tremendous in terms of application
exactly.
everywhere. So in closing, I'm going to refer people to Edwin's website, www.cultureofempathy.com, for just a wealth of information and examples, and refer you also to my website, www.cefocusing.com, where you can sign up for a free e-course and learn both empathic listening and experiential focusing skills in a self-help way. So thank you very much, and we'll sign off here.